Wunderschönen guten Tag und herzlich willkommen bei Crowdgaming. Es gibt Momente im Leben eines jeden Spielejournalisten, die lassen das Herz ein wenig höher schlagen. Heute ist so ein Moment passiert, denn heute habe ich jemanden getroffen, der mit 14 seinen ersten Nummer 1 Spieletitel in England gelandet hat, der sich mit der Wing Commander Serie endgültig in den Olymp der Spieleentwickler katapultierte, dann einen Schlenker in die Filmbranche gemacht hat, dort Filme produziert hat wie The Punisher, Wing Commander, Lord of War, Lucky Number 11 und der hat jetzt vor, ganz neues Spiel zu machen, und zwar das Spiel, was er eigentlich immer machen wollte. Die Rede ist natürlich von Chris Roberts. Und was Chris Roberts so vorhat in den nächsten Jahren, das hört ihr jetzt im Interview mit Chris Roberts auf Crowdgaming.
It's called Star Citizen because citizenship's a very important part of the universe. So first of all, we've got this idea of all the players that are playing, it's like a community, and so they're active citizens, but also, citizenship isn't automatic in this. You've got to earn it. So either you take a tour of duty with the military to earn your citizenship, or you make a lot of money as a merchant and you can buy your citizenship. Having said, we've got that sort of privateer freelancer structure, inside it, we've got what we're calling Squadron 42, which is sort of the Wing Commander experience, the single player side that, in this universe you can sign up for your tour of duty and you're fighting on the front lines of the Empire, holding back the barbarian alien races. And in that's very much the Wing Commander style, where it's more cinematic, it's branching mission structure, and of course you're in the military, so it's not open world. You can't just decide to take off and fly off to this planet. But the idea is your goal is to sort of eventually get to be invited into the 42nd Imperial Squadron, which is this sort of legendary squadron that's always been fighting on the front lines and for the longest time holding back the barbarians, and they're a little like the French Foreign Legion, where they have they're always in the toughest and the hardest places, and the odds are always stacked against them, but somehow they manage to pull it out, and over time they have this reputation of being the hardest and toughest fighting force in the Imperial Navy. And the goal as you play through, if you get accepted in the squadron, once you finish your campaign and you muster out, you've now part of this sort of exclusive club. You are like one of the members of the squadron, and it's sort of like a special club in the universe. You muster out some money, and then you're in the bigger universe and you can make your fortune. So, and that part of the game can be played as a single player game offline, or you can play it online and have some of your friends join as sort of wingmen in some of the missions. So it's sort of a cooperative stuff. And then the bigger universe is sort of a persistent multiplayer universe. And then on top, then the extra thing we're going to do is that we're going to allow the people to run their own servers and have a more limited version of the multiplayer sort of universe, much like Freelancer is now. Because one of the other things we're very keen on is the sense of community. Like, so for instance, Freelancer came out in 2003, and there's still a lot of people that play it today. They run servers. There's a heavy mod community for it. And it's because there were those features to let people to mod and change stuff and do stuff, and gave it a huge life. And I think that one of the things that's interesting for me in games today is that I think the involvement of the community is really important. I mean, if you look at Minecraft, the community makes Minecraft, and in fact, basic Minecraft's very simple and not particularly graphically complex, but people build amazing, wonderful things in it. So there's a lot of sort of community content. Team Fortress has a bunch of that stuff too, and I think you want to embrace that community. And the Freelancer and the Wing Commander communities have always, there hasn't been a Wing Commander forever, but there are people still skinning different engines to have Wing Commander ships in it, or building their own games. And so we're building a whole bunch of modding tools that we use ourselves for, like the updates of the stories inside the universe and creating it, that people could also create content for their own sort of offline on a server thing, but also they could say maybe design a spaceship, and we got to curate the stuff in the persistent universe, but if it's cool enough and we accept it in, it can be sold in the spaceship dealers in the universe, and then the person that built that will get a cut of the revenue that comes in, which would be kind of cool. that's all important. And then the other thing is in terms of the community themselves when they're playing the game, we really want them to feel like they're making an impact on the universe. So we're talking about dynamic economy, which is one part of it. But the other part of it is the sort of updates of the story and the content or what's happening in the universe. So we're not planning to do these once a year updates or every 2 years updates like you see on sort of World of Warcraft or EVE Online. The idea is to do lots of small micro updates all the time. So, maybe this week you add a star system in, maybe this other week there's a little mission that drops on this side of the galaxy. So the same sort of like tools that we build to let people do stuff for some their off-mailing stuff is what we're using to do this sort of micro content updates during the course of the game itself. And there'll be things like if you're an explorer, like when a new system, we create a new system, we're not going to actually tell someone that we've created a new system, and the jump point won't actually be open yet. What will happen is there'll be like in a little anomaly like near a star, and people that are playing Explorer, they're scanning and they find this thing, and then if they find it and they navigate the jump, and navigating the jump for the very first time is a very hairy proposition. It's like surfing a huge wave break as a surfer, and if you manage to get to the other side alive, your nav computer's recorded all your moves, and then you can sell that back to the big space companies, and you make a lot of money because that's how everyone now gets the jump point to go to this new star system. And the other cool thing is you'll get to name the jump point of the star system. So you'll actually become part of the universe. You'll sort of become part of the lore, and that's all the kind of things that we want to do to make the community part of it. And then on the ongoing storytelling side, we're going to approach the universe much like a TV series does. So instead of like a movie, we're going to, we build our universe Bible and we write our sort of early set of episodes. And like in TV, you broadcast them, and then if the audience likes it, you keep going, but you sort of adjust it based on, they don't like this character, they do like this character, well, this character gets killed off, this one gets a bigger role. So we're going to have that approach in the storytelling. It's almost like we're being a real-time dungeon master telling this, this story in the universe. So that's sort of the bigger scheme. So kind of what I'm going to show you now is some of the technical stuff that I've been spending the time prototyping. So let me just fire it up. And this is to sort of show you. It's on here. If you that. So what this is sort of like off part of what will be the Squadron 42 stuff. I'm talking about more the Wing Commander side of it, but it's going to show you the level of detail and fidelity that will also be in the Star Citizen side. So let me just load it up. So we're just going to start, and this isn't finished into the whole. We're starting on a deck of the carrier that you're based off, which is a little like the Tiger's Claw in Wing Commander, but it's not nearly as it's going to have people running around and a whole bunch of other stuff that's happening. Deck crew doing the fires, but just to give you an idea. So this is us, but so one of the things that we're sort of the level of fidelity, so on this character, he's about 100,000 faces versus typical AAA games now on consoles are about 10,000 faces. So what it allows you to do is all this piping and wiring and all this detail you can't do on a current gen stuff. So it's much more like cinematic detail assets.
To understand the scale, that carrier where you're currently standing on and flying them, will that be your personal instance, or will I see every other player running around there?
Well, no. So in this, it depends. Well, this is sort of where the single player is, but in the multiplayer side, in the Star Citizen side, that carrier won't necessarily be only in your instance, but it won't necessarily be in everybody's instance, because in the space, when you interact in space, maybe there can only be 100 or so people in one local area of space, but the 100 people would see this. But just to give you an idea, I mean, the carrier is about 1 kilometer in size and sides. So, and and everything's sort of rendered. If you look at all the ceiling and all the level of detail, there's just you couldn't do this on a current day console machine. But let's go over to get in one of the fighters.
But you can't do that on most today's PCs either.
Well, yeah, you can do it on a gaming PC. I mean, I'm running this, there's about, this whole scene's running about 10, 12 million polygons now a frame. But like, so, to give you an example, I'm going to get into this ship. This is like one of the ships we fly, and it's all modeled to sort of the same level of detail that I've got my character with all the bits, and you'll see when I take off. So I'll climb into my ship. And the ship itself is about 300,000 faces. So most vehicles in AAA games now are about 30,000 or 40,000. So it's again 10x. So pretty much everything's about 10x what you have in a current day game. But this is, everything's about the immersion. So I want to be in the cockpit. So like in the old Wing Commander, you're in the cockpit, but obviously this is, all modeled fully in 3D and detail, and we can look around. And I'll just start to go out to space. And there's a couple of things you can see that on the side. And also, if you take a look at the, you can see this thing's rotating around, and these, if I stop here for a second, you can probably see the doors opening as it's going. I can take out, so I'll just take out here.
I can't say if you did it intentionally, but with the first Wing Commander, you kind of set new rules for sound card design in PCs. Do you have the intention of doing the same thing to gaming PCs with this game?
Oh, definitely, yeah. My whole point is I'm going to say this is what you can do if you, so like for instance, to give you, by the way, in the thing, there's a bunch of sound, but it's not in here yet. So
not only for sound cards, but
yeah, no, go. Well, no. So to take, if you take a look here, so like kind of one of the things that I'm really, first of all, there was no loading screen, right? I'm there on the deck in first-person mode in this incredibly detailed environment. I walk up to my ship, I climb into my ship, I power it up. I've just taken off. I'm flying around. I'm outside this the carrier that I was on, which is 1 kilometer in size, and it's all rendered to the same sort of like if you look at like here, if I look in my cockpit here, I'm sort of in my cockpit, right? So you can if I'm like you can see my feet, or if I'm like moving my the joystick, or also like if I'm looking around, you can see my head. I'm tracking around, doing everything in the thruster. Same you can see on the same in the cockpit. Like if I'm feet on the pedals, feet on the so I'm changing my weapon. I'll hit the button. It's a level that I always wanted to do, but I couldn't do, and it's sort of almost like the filmic side. And then the same on like if I fly up here, it's kind of to. Let's see if we can sort of see inside. If the lower level, you should be able to see. I'll try not to. I'm a bit close here, so it may have. Yeah, I think I hit the side.
If you hit it, they shoot you?
Well, they will properly. Yeah, this is my demo level, so they're not. They're much more friendly to me at the moment. I'm just trying to see if I can show you to kind of give you an idea of. I'll pull out here, and you can see maybe.
But to point that out, you're playing this currently on a current Alienware laptop.
Yeah, on a current Alienware laptop. So yeah, you can see like the guy, he's in the bridge, there's a whole hollow thing, and that bridge is fully built out, so there's chairs and people in it. And so like if we're playing the multiplayer in this thing, you should be able to sit on a bridge, and a friend of yours will be like in his fighter and can look in the cockpit is kind of the idea. But I'll just pull out. But yeah, and they also like the level of like texture detail and details that are on the fighter are also sort of the same stuff on the big carrier, except the big carrier is like a kilometer in size, right? It's like, and it's all rendered in scale correctly. And then one of the other things here, I'll just show. I'll come over on the top. It's kind of good to show. But so one of the other things I'm pretty excited by is the level of the physics and how the fly-by-wire system works. So the space flight in this works very much like flying an F-35. So there's a whole computer system that basically takes your input. So I'm like yawing here. You can see those thrusters. They're actually moving and firing, and they're applying thrust properly. It's all physically modeled correctly, the weight, the physics. So if I'm like doing pitch and yaw, you can see and I go the other way, the back ones thrust and the thrust ones. So it's if I'm doing roll, you'll see that all the ones to. So basically, what's happening is it's just like an F-35. I'm giving it inputs, and the ship. It's going, okay, Chris wants to roll. So it goes and talks to the thrusters and says, I need to apply force here and here and here. How quickly can you get to this angle and how much thrust can you give me? And the thrusters talk back to the computer and say, okay, I can give you this much and I can get there in 1 millisecond or whatever. And then it decides how much it goes and tells the thrusters what to do. And what's really great about that is like the maneuverability of the ship is, it's not like, in a typical game you say, okay, the ship can roll 30 degrees a second and it can go this fast. It's all not. It's all modeled in physics. It's all done procedural. And what's cool about that, what it means is, like, say if you're in a dogfight and you get damaged in this thruster or you get damaged in that thruster, they'll all have different effects on your maneuverability. And it'll also have different effects on like your weight. So you have a lot of weapons on your ship, well, that's going to weigh you down. So maybe, you won't thrust as much. It also means that, like in the multiplayer side and the Star Citizen side, as you upgrade your ship, you'll upgrade. You can put more powerful thrusters on the ship, and that probably will mean you can maneuver faster. But then you'll also probably have to have a bigger power plant, which will weigh more, which will counteract you. And so there's going to be a whole sort of rock, paper, scissors based on all the physical properties. That means that you can. Someone could spend a lot of money to have a really heavily armored ship with big, powerful weapons. But someone could probably also build a much lighter, more nimble ship. Maybe it doesn't cost as much, and that ship will blow up from one hit from this big, heavy ship. But the big, heavy ships, can't move that quick. So maybe the nimble ship can dodge what the big, heavy ship's firing, and it gets enough hits on it, that takes out the big, heavy ship. So it's a lot more rock, paper, scissors in terms of how the design works on the ship. So no one's going to have any even if you spend, you've earned a lot of money, but you upgrade your ship a lot, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to beat everyone, because there's an element of skill, and then there's also an element of balancing based on the ship design. And then I guess the other thing is the idea is everything that you would think would move on the ship, so it's vectored thrust. You can see the vectors back; they're all moving as I'm flying around, doing the proper thrust. And then so if I come here, I get closer, just little details, if my guns are tracking around, the wires that are attached to the Gatling gun are animating. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that you don't normally see on guns. And like I was showing before, my head's tracking around, the guns are tracking to it, and sort of other things. So I'll just bring my missiles out. They come down from the bay, and then if I fire the missiles. Oh, hang on, I better make sure that missile gets off my wing, so it's not going to kill me. Sometimes it gets stuck. But if I fire my missiles, my own missile took my wing off. There you go, that's part of the physics. I'll fire again. So you see, they fire a force. It's all physically done. So there's an impulse that goes out, and there's an impulse on the stuff that fires.
Seeing that level of detail gives me the impression that the machinima community will go nuts about that engine or that.
Well, I hope so. No, I mean, basically, the level of detail that we have in this is sort of a level of detail that previously I would just be doing on a pre-rendered animation. So here, I'm just going to land and get into another ship that I've got a little test platform out here to show. But yeah, I mean, it's okay. And by the way, there's a whole cool, let's not get in here too fast. There's a whole sort of cool Iron Man HUD system that isn't fully hooked in yet, but you're seeing a little bit of it. And this is all, if you're in stereoscopic 3D, it all has this sort of Iron Man thing that's in front of you, which is kind of cool. But you're going to be able to sort of sweep things off your LCDs. Like if I look down on my LCD, there's a weapons display here. You'll be able to sweep it onto your HUD display, sort of think Minority Report and stuff. And when you do it, you'll see your character do that. So every action you do in the cockpit, whatever it is, swinging a butt, you do something on here, he'll do something in the cockpit. So it's just all about making it more immersive is one of the big keys for me. So here, let me just try and.
Now your ship always stops because basically applies counter thrust.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm doing it right now, so I can show you, it's all physical. So if I go forward here. And I stop. I just stopped it. You see there's front thrusters, and now there's actually gravity. Oops, daisy. I don't want to be on this side. I've just pushed him off to back. There's gravity on this platform, which is why the thrusters are actually firing right now. Let's try not to get killed by my ship falling on me. Okay, good. Okay, so I'm gonna run to get in this one. Where are we? Where's the entrance? This is actually one of the alien ships that you're not really going to be flying. It's the aliens fly it against you. But I can jump in. It's not actually set up for me to fly. My seat isn't set up correctly on it, but I can still fly it. So it puts me in the wrong position. But okay, I'll knock the ship off. There we go. Okay, great. I lost my weapon. Anyway, I've sort of built some bits to fall off it, so that kind of sucks. I didn't really want the weapon to fall off, but I was just kind of showing. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that weapon. That's a problem. But it's the same thing. Like on this ship, it's the sort of same level of detail, and same thing with the. And even if you can sort of see, I mean, I guess this where the alien race will be inside the cockpit, but I'm sitting outside the cockpit there right now, and then just like it's all like that little detail. I mean, the rivets and the gull. I mean, it's like a level that you wouldn't, that you haven't seen, I think, before on anything but sort of more pre-rendered cinematic stuff.
What kind of engine powers the game? Is that a custom own written engine, or? No,
it's it's a combination. So it's and so like that's our kilometer long carrier, which is it's pretty cool. You get it close. So you just get this sense of scale. It's built on top of CryEngine 3. So there's a heavy amount of modification that's happened on CryEngine to because that big carrier is a vehicle. It's a spaceship, and everything's a vehicle. So they CryEngine doesn't really support anything of this scale. So there was a lot of engineering work to be able to do all the scale. But they got some really nice tech. It's got a very great sort of photorealistic rendering style, and it's actually pretty scalable. So I've been working with the CryEngine, the Crytek guys this past year, and they've been great, and we've been building a lot of stuff on top of it. But it's in today's world, it's crazy to build your own engine from scratch because it's all the same stuff. I mean, it's all the same kind of rendering techniques. It's more about how you're doing stuff for exactly what you need to do.
Talking about availability, when will the player be able to get a first hands on this game or this universe?
Well, so that's what I was saying. So the actual game for the full public will go live in approximately 2 years' time. But before that, if you're one of the early people that essentially sort of pre-buys a spaceship or backs the game, I'll just fly back onto the flight deck. Then you'll be able to play about a year in. So about a year in, we're going to have a sort of multiplayer version, which won't be a persistent world, but it will be sort of like this flying this with all these stuff in a multiplayer situation. So I've just landed it in the back of the carrier, and if I run over here, I can go get the other, get into the other fighter and fly out. So you'll be able to sort of play about a year in the alpha of the multiplayer, and then probably about 8 months after that, the alpha of the persistent world. So if you come in early, but essentially you're sort of pre-buying your spaceship, you'll be part of the sort of see what's happening on the development, get involved in that, and be playing a long time before the general public will be playing, and playing early stuff and early builds and stuff. So it'll be all this, but multiplayer matchmaking, having dogfights in space, about a year in, and then so on. So,
one last question: as for your movie background, will this universe or this engine or this game support machinimas being made?
Well, I wouldn't know. Since we're doing heavy modding stuff. I think probably the answer will be yes, it will do. I mean, we're putting there'll be a lot of tools for us to build that. I mean, I spent this last year was sort of proof of concepting the technology and this level of resolution and scale, going from, down on the ground, first person into the cockpit, then out into big space. And also, the workflow required for that, and to how to do, the bigger sort of, see if I can get out before the door opens. Yeah. So, I got into a ship, took off, brought another ship, came back, landed in another ship. It's kind of fun. Sure.
As this will also be multiplayer on servers, how many users do you think you need constantly so this works? Because recently so many games had their servers shut off and left people disappointed. Might it be Lego or whatever?
Well, so here's the thing: is that, the model that we're doing it for is the Guild Wars model. So we're not doing a subscription MMO, but we're also not doing a free to play. You basically have to buy a spaceship to get into the universe, so to speak. The plan is that the universe will be sort of supported by people doing more of that, and then also you can sort of buy credits in the universe with money if you want, instead of having to. But there's nothing in the game that is pay to win. There's nothing you can only buy with money. So all money will do is let you get some credits, but you can also earn credits just by playing. So basically, it'd just be, you want to spend 10 hours playing, or do you want to spend some credits so you can just get the big fancy ship sooner? And of course, how I described it, there's no way that even if you spend a lot of money, you're going to have an unfair advantage, because there's skill involved and there's different balancing on the ships. But on the answer on that, the idea is that those things will help support it. But even if they don't, and that's an issue, that's one of the reasons why we're building it so people can run their own servers. So if it comes to that, which I hope it wouldn't come to that, but it won't die. It'll be, people they won't be left with, out and playing it. So they'll be able to play the single player stuff. They'll be able to do their own modding. They'll be able to run their own servers, even in the most catastrophic situation where no one's giving any more money and they're not into it. Then, the people that have already got it will have plenty of stuff they can do and carry on doing. But I'm hoping it won't. I'm hoping it'll be a pretty active community. And we're also building it in such a way that it's kind of sort of like some of the content updates and stuff. It's not the same way it was. It's not same way it was built or done on sort of like the old Republic or whatever. So it's not going to be high cost to do that. So I think the biggest issue is going to be just really sort of the servers you've got to run locally for the sort of the battle instances, so to speak, that's where we're flying around in space and having combat versus being down on the planet, because that's the stuff that's the more difficult stuff. But
so I assume you will have your own ship built just for the universe you can fly in and around just for you.
I don't know. That's a good idea. I haven't really thought about that so far. But it definitely, people can do customization, and there's going to be hopefully some pretty cool ships and stuff that you can do. But
I have one last storytelling question. As you're also a writer and being in the movies, how did the definition of evil or the definition of evil change now after 2001, after 9/11? How is that reflected in games? I know how it's reflected in the movies, but how is it reflected in games?
It's hard to say, because I think games have just generally been simpler than movies in a lot of ways. It's been black or white, bad or good. Like in Wing Commander, the Kilrathi were bad and you were good. There wasn't any sort of it was like it was modeled on the war in the Pacific, and the Kilrathi were the Japanese, and the Terran Confederation were the U.S. Navy, and in that was clearly Japan was the aggressor, and they were kind of in the wrong. But it's kind of hard to say. I will say that I've sort of seen some games recently that have tried to be more grey than black and white. I'm not sure if they've necessarily been successful. I think that was kind of part of the whole Spec Ops, the line idea of stuff. But I don't. Maybe I don't see it, but I haven't seen the same sort of impact on games as, say, movies had after 9/11. But maybe I'm wrong. Why? What do you think? What's your opinion of the impact on?
I think now as movies also have the capabilities to games have the capabilities to be more grey. They're not.
Right.
They can be. I slowly see that getting into the games, getting the storylines more complex. And
well, definitely. I'd say that, but I'm not sure that's a 9/11 thing. Not 9/11. Sorry. It is 9/11 thing, but I definitely think, but that's because people I think are trying to explore the medium more, and the technology is more powerful, so you can do more stuff. I definitely like the new Naughty Dog game. The post-apocalyptic one? I forget the name of it now.
The one in Dubai.
No. The Last of Us. That's right. The Last of Us. Yeah, that's definitely much greater. It's much more interesting. The Dubai one was Spec Ops: The Line. But yeah, so people are trying to do a bit of that. But it's interesting. I mean, even in this, in the universe I'm setting up here, it's not as black and white as the Wing Commander universe. It's much more grey. It's much more like it's modelled on the sort of decline and fall of the Roman Empire, and Earth. And the Empire of Earth is basically the Roman Empire. So it's sort of got all these different factions and political directions that are taken by the different parts of the galaxy, depending on where they are and what relationships they have with the local alien races and kind of what their interests are. And so it's a much more sort of interesting grey universe. But I think you need that for an open world. So there's a lot of opportunity for people to sort of do their own thing.